I truly think it is because of the unspoken bar that people are held to in their looks. I mean, it's one of those things, if you're not getting your lips done, your Botox, and you got to maintain your hair, and you got to have these clothes on air, and now it's this, and it's like, oh my gosh, like, I signed up to talk about racing, not be in a beauty pageant.
Ladies and gentlemen, you wanted it, you got it. The place for the untold, real, raw, and juicy stories of dirt track racing. It's Dirt Track Confessions. And now here's your host, Mandee Pauch Mahaney.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Dirt Track Confessions. I'm your host, Mandee Pauch Mahaney, and today I'm excited. I feel like I've known this guest for quite some time. We've crossed paths multiple times, and really thrilled to have her on, Hannah Newhouse. Now, she is a full-time reporter for the World of Outlaw late models. She does various stuff with them. She is a pit reporter for NBC Sports on IMSA Sports Cars. She is a freelance on-air talent for, various multiple things that she can possibly come up with. She does it. And of course, she is a full-time dog mom to Janet. Now, Hannah, welcome, girlfriend. How are you? What's going on over there?
I'm good. Thanks so much for having me on. Like you said, I feel like in the grand scape of things, we've been friends for quite some while, whether it was like started as Instagram friends and then came to fruition where I think we were at a racetrack one time. We were like, wait a second. Hold on 1 second. We know each other. And it was one of those weird things. It was an Instagram friendship that like flourished into a real life friendship. So I'm glad that we were, able to make this work.
It is so wild, the time we live in, but it's so great. I love that you are spot on. Okay, so little quick backstory I'm going to share on Hannah is she may have like the best presence in front of the camera. She kills it. But for some of you listeners that might not know, she actually grew up racing. So correct me if I'm wrong, but you did super late models and you competed in NASCAR K&N Pro Series. Is that correct?
Yeah, yep. So I come from the pavement world. So I'm a ex-pavement super late model racer, and then did some, like you said at the time, it was called the K&N West Series. Now ARCA Menards West Series. I can't keep up with the rebrands anymore, to be quite honest with you. But yeah, I did that up until, 2016 when I moved out here to try and run some stuff with Toyota, and then race car stuff does race car stuff, and I found my way in front of a microphone and a camera instead, and I still get to go to the racetrack every weekend and do racetrack stuff with my racetrack friends, so I can't really complain.
That's true. Okay, so that has me asking. So I'm pretty sure you went to school for like media and journalism, right?
So I actually went to school for business and marketing. My whole plan at the time was I was obviously selling sponsorship and doing the marketing for myself, and I was like, all else fails, I can just get paid to do this for someone else. Turns out numbers, not my thing. Couldn't pass calculus to actually save my life. So I started taking comm classes, and I actually never finished college. I moved out here at the beginning of my junior year of college, kind of switched to online, was vaguely getting like a marketing communications degree, was just kind of skirt through it, and ended up getting a job essentially of what I probably would have gone to college for. I was actually doing account management for, at the time, Speed 51. I was handling a bunch of driver accounts and doing website, clientele updates, that kind of stuff, and accidentally ended up in front of a camera with them. So I'd gotten a job that I was essentially going to school for, so I was having a really hard time justifying going back. So it's been a weird snowball effect. Like, everything that I look back on, I'm like, interesting path, but I'm not mad about it at all.
No, I feel like this is where you and I are going to really jive here, because first off, I went to school. I started school. I wanted to be a teacher because I'd have weekends off. Not even a semester in, I was like, no way.
Yeah.
Just no way. This was not for me. Numbers is not my thing either. I hate to say it, but like I actually had to take I called it dumb math class because I didn't even get credit for it to place.
Yeah. I took like 051 math was my first college course in math, and I was looking around and I was like,
this ain't good.
This is not good. We are not numbers people here. It was all the creatives, you know what I mean? Like all the arts kids that are like, I can do like prisms and that stuff, but like don't ask me the square root of anything.
Yeah. Okay, so you're from Idaho, yes?
Yes.
Okay, so you're from Idaho. You left college in 2016. You moved to North Carolina So like, okay, let's just start from 2016 to now. Like the different, like connect the dots for us to how you ended up here.
Yeah, so again, it's a total crazy snowball effect, which always kind of puts me in a funky spot when, you know, I have people reach out to me, be like, how do I get here? Which we can touch on that later, because my path is so unconventional. And I moved out here in 2016. Toyota kind of nudged me to come out this direction. At the time, I was racing super late models part-time as part of the Toyota program for David Gilliland Racing. And so we did like a part-time schedule with what was the Southern Super Series, or Pass South, and Cars Tour at the time. And the off season kind of came along, and they were like, move up or move out. And I couldn't put together the funding to move up, so my other option was to go back to Idaho, which at that time I'd felt like I'd pretty much accomplished everything that I could accomplish out there, right? Like I'd be going back, running the same series that we just won the championship in, just won races. Mm-hmm. So I was kind of between the rock and the hard spot of, that's never going to pay the bills for me out there. So like I got to start figuring out what I'm going to do. And in the short track racing world, I'd always been well connected with Speed 51 at the time, who was kind of the premier short track racing outlet. And they were based in Concord, North Carolina. And so went over there, pitched myself at, I think I just turned 18, and was like, I need a job. Here's what I can do. I'm willing to be a Swiss Army knife, like whatever you need. And I got put on account management. So I think I was doing like Bubba Pollard's account. I was doing Stephen Nassie's account. Cole Williams accounts, like all of these pavement late model drivers with website updates, social media, marketing packets, press releases, plus I was helping with series. And I think there was a top shooter at Hickory Motor Speedway that called out one weekend. And my boss was like, you're going to learn to run a camera. And I was like, okay.
Nice.
Yep, showed me how to run it, sent me out to Hickory. And then the next weekend I needed to go out there again. And he's like, well, why don't you put it on a tripod and let's do a stand-up? And then it was, well, what about you shoulder them and go get interviews? And then by the end of a couple races, I was top shooting, cutting, editing, programming all of this, and then putting it on the website. So I was a fully self-sufficient package right then and there. And that kind of started the propelling of, my on-air career. It was shortly after that I kind of got connected with people at NASCAR Home Tracks. They contracted me for freelance stuff the next year after I left Speed 51. To go to all of their, NASCAR Wheel and Modified Tour races, the ARCA races, MRN, NASCAR Radio, called me and said, okay, well, we're going to put you on air for a weekly show to help host short track racing, because that's what you know. And I was like, oh, but I want to be at the track. Like, I don't want to be in a studio every single week. And they were like, well, you're going to have to audition for Pit Road. And I'd never called anything live in my life. So they sent me down to Daytona. I was told I was auditioning for Xfinity qualifying. I prepped anything and everything I could for Xfinity qualifying. There was weather in the area, so it got pushed to the next day. So my, at the time, soon-to-be boss turns and looks at me and he goes, hey, just kidding, we're going to audition you during truck qualifying right now. Okay. I had no notes, nothing. When I tell you I've never wanted to puke so bad in my entire life. So anyways, went and did my audition. It must have went well because they hired me. So I worked over there for a couple years, working everything from truck races to cup races, calling pit road as a pit reporter. And then in 2021, I always say I like to be a Swiss Army knife of motorsports, because NBC called me that year and said, we need you to go to Laguna Seca. What do you know about sports cars? I said, not much. They said, learn today. And they sent me 2 weeks later out to work my first national TV broadcast with them. And that was also the same year that World Racing Group called me to start doing World of Outlaw stuff. And that was supposed to be about a 10-race, 15-race fill-in. They needed someone to kind of fill in this gap that they had in the schedule. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the season, after I went and worked World Finals, they were like, all right, if you want the whole season, it's yours. And that was a really hard step for me to take away from NASCAR, which I thought was kind of my pinnacle. I thought that's where everyone wanted to go, and I was there and I was working NASCAR. But the environment and everything that came with it wasn't well for me. And I saw what dirt racing and the community and honestly World Racing Group had to offer me, and I saw long term. And that's a very, very hard thing to find in motorsports broadcasting, is long term and stability. And I found that in World Racing Group. And so I've now been there 4 years, and also still do part-time stuff with NBC. So again, it was a wild bob and weave of events, but like, man, it's so crazy again to look back on it because I never had any expectations on the table because I just didn't know where I was going. I was rolling with the punches, sending reels, making phone calls, and here we are.
Okay, that's amazing. Yes, again, that sounds just like my life. I went from, I'm going to do this, to this, to this, to that, to that. And everyone's like, so how did you get here? And I'm like, I need to draw a map.
Yeah, do you have a whiteboard?
Yes.
Yes.
There's a lot of cross-connecting lines here. So, okay, I actually just did a recording on this where I talked about, the importance of building your network. So I always preach about, it's all about who the people you surround yourself, the people you surround yourself with, and the rooms you get yourself into. So do you feel, that every job that you had, that you started from in 2016, helped connect the dots for you to where you are now, to where you're going next?
Absolutely. I mean, that rang true. We say it's who you know to get you there and then what you know to keep you there.
Yeah.
And absolutely. And especially in the world of broadcasting, and I don't say this maybe in a negative light, but it's very ancestral in the sense that you could have a producer that you work on a project with in American Flat Track or MotoGP, and 4 years later, they're your producer on ARCA dirt race at DeCoin. So it's a really weird, transition. People are constantly, again, there's not a lot of stability in it. So having those connections has been huge. I feel like I got in at Speed 51 because I made those connections when I was a driver. I got in at NASCAR home tracks because I was working coincided with them with NASCAR home tracks at Speed 51. And, all the way up to like NBC stuff. I was making cold calls, building those relationships, trying to meet with these people when I was in town, going to lunch. Can I drop into the studio? Can I come say hi? Mm-hmm. Even as far as like, even if I wasn't looking for a job at the moment, I knew they didn't have anything to offer, I was always looking for feedback. I was sending my reels going, hey, here's my most recent work. What do you think? What can I improve on? What's your professional opinion on this? And that absolutely still stands true today. My boss at World Racing Group, at Dirt Vision, he's an old speed channel producer. So we know a ton of the same people, which has brought a lot of the people that we've worked together. One of my main producers right now, that's my in-studio producer, I've worked esports with years ago. So again, it's this weird spider web of connections, and the motorsports industry is small. As big as it is, it's very small. And then the broadcasting side of it is like 10 times smaller. So it can be your best friend and your worst enemy depending how you play your cards.
Yes. I always say never burn bridges because you never know when it's going to circle back and you're going to need that person.
Yeah. And if you're going to burn it, throw gasoline on it, light it on fire, and just know you're not going back to it.
No way. Yeah. Well, so that was one of the things was when I was in community college, so like my first 2 years in college, the guidance counselor, I told him what I wanted to do. And he literally told me, he's like, you don't need a degree. He's like, what you want to do in the racing industry, it's sports. He's like, it's all a matter of who you know. And it's so hard to tell people that aren't really deeply involved in racing that want to do what we do. So it's like, you have to start somewhere because that's going to lead to the next thing. You can't go from here to here. You have to take the roads that we took.
Well, and I think we saw that for a while in NASCAR, where I remember when I first started coming around and was looking for jobs, I was applying for stuff and my resume would get thrown out because I had no degree. Mm-hmm. And I think we were also seeing it though, seeing that thought process in the product that was being pushed out by NASCAR, because it was quality content. Well, let me rephrase that. It was quality production of things, but you could tell the points, the storylines, that kind of stuff were being missed because these people may have marketing degrees, but they have no knowledge of NASCAR. They have no understanding of it. They just had a marketing degree. And I think NASCAR quickly kind of saw that and started to backpedal and be like, okay, we need people with the experience, the passion, the knowledge, and we can teach them how to run Canva if we need to, or whatever it is. And I think that thought process has changed a lot in a lot of industries over the last couple of years, where you can teach someone something if they're willing to have the passion and the knowledge and that kind of stuff for it. Now, like, if you're going to be my lawyer or my doctor, go to school, please. Like, you've got to go to school for those. But like marketing and that kind of stuff, I feel like is so niche. The experience is going to be so much farther. It's going to further you so much more than what you learned in a lecture.
Amen. Good. Yes, absolutely. So, okay, backing up, because you said it previously when you were, did we call it an audition when you were?
Oh yeah, we auditioned. Yeah.
We call it auditions, right? Okay, so it always, as soon as you said that, it always blows my goddamn mind. Now maybe I just have the attention of a squirrel and the brain library of like a peanut. I don't even know. I can't even remember what I ate last night for dinner. Okay, like how in the world do you prepare for a race? Like, I don't know. I mean, if you're traveling with the same series, I'm sure that's a lot easier. You get to know people. But how do you prepare for a race weekend?
So I think the easiest way to explain this is, like you said, hitting with the World of Outlaw late model stuff. I cover 98% of their races. There might be a race or two that I have to miss throughout the season because I will be doing some sports car stuff. So when you do follow a series consistently and you're there each and every night, you're there living the storylines, you build those friendships, those storylines come to you unconventionally in the sense that you pick up the phone call and you're talking to a friend who tells you X, Y, and Z, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, so-and-so quit, that's a storyline, da-da-da-da. And it's so much easier when you're fully immersed and fully integrated in a series like I am with the World of Outlaws. So I'll be honest with you, my prep going into a race weekend is relatively minimal, making sure I've got updated points, stats, that kind of stuff. But I always say my job as a pit reporter is less statistical and analytical and more reactionary. So I'm down there reacting to the heat race, talking to the driver after he gets out, interviewing him in victory lane, talking about what's going on in the hot pit. Not necessarily talking about how many heat race wins he has, how many track record he has. That's very much booth-oriented statistics. So, same with when I prep for like sports car races. I wish I had my iPad here to show you, because sports car races, you would think I'm studying for the bar exam. Because for those that are unfamiliar with IMSA and how that works, a worst case scenario is an endurance race, which I just worked the Rolex 24 at Daytona. So the 24-hour race. And they had over 60 cars, and each car has 4 drivers. They rotate out. Beyond that, there's the 60 cars that are cut down into 3 classes. So 3 separate classes going on with 60 cars, 4 different drivers, and all of these different manufacturers, hypercars, GT cars, and man, let me tell you, the homework that goes into that as far as like bio research and team research and, you know, how IMSA polices their races every weekend changes. There's a thing called balance of performance that if we explained what that was to dirt racers, they would lose their minds because it's essentially like race manipulation to keep the racing close. So I do a ton of research for that. And then again, a lot of it's reactionary also. So when I get to the racetrack, I hit the ground running. I've got a schedule of events for the weekend. Whenever I'm not on air, I am in the garages, the paddock area, like talking to the drivers, getting notes, getting reactions, setting up phone calls. So it's nonstop work on those weekends because you simply can never be ahead. Like there's so much that you can't be ahead. So I like that I intermittently go back and forth between the two of them because I'll have like, oh, it's a World of Outlaw weekend. Okay, we're good. I can breathe. I can go interview my friends. Like, we're good. And then it's like IMSA, and I'm like, okay, I got to hit the books. And I'll start prepping out, you know, about a week or so beforehand, which we get a lot of statistical help. We've got a company that does supply us with a lot of statistics, which does help. But yeah, it's like I went back to college again, man. It's
a good challenge, though.
It is. And it's very, I love the IMSA world. Again, if you'd have told me 5 years ago, being a pavement late model girl, that I'd be working sports cars and dirt, I'd have been like, you're on drugs. That is not the avenue that I'm going.
Yeah.
But I get both sides of the spectrum, and you get like backwoods, dirt track, grassroots, good old boy racing, right? And then you get like Frederick Vervish from France that's driving a factory Ford Mustang. You know what I mean? You're like, whoa. Yeah. I have both sides of the spectrum in my reporting. So it's good. It's a fun balance.
I feel like my fear is just screwing up people's names. Like some drivers, and you have to, and they're fancy names, bro.
My favorite is when I go up to the PR people and I'm like, can you like give me the phonetics? Like, how do I say this person's name? And then because most of those factory teams, like the Lamborghini teams, are all based overseas, even their PR person is from overseas. So she's telling me the name in her accent. I'm like, no, I need you to like simplify this for me. Like, can you write it out for me how you're saying it? So that's actually how a lot of my names are written in my notes, is phonetically. Like, if I had to actually spell them, I couldn't spell them because I have to like spell them out phonetically. Yes. Oh, it's wild.
Okay. All right. That just, well, good for you, because no, not my cup of tea. No way. So, okay. Are you enjoying this episode, want even more, or want a closer connection to the DTU fam? Join us over in Club DTU, where you'll receive early access to all of our podcasts, live race day updates, exclusive content, special merchandise, discounts, a community chat, personal recognition, and so much more. All inside one place, Club DTU. Let's say we're at a late model race. What does a race night look like for Hannah?
So, I usually get there around noonish whenever they open up the pit area, open up the gates. You know, I don't think a lot of people actually realize the production that we put on at Dirt Vision literally consists of 4, maybe 5 people maximum at the racetrack every single night. We've got a couple people back at the Concord studio because everything we shoot gets shot back to Charlotte before it then goes out over the airwaves. We've got people that are doing stuff there. Yeah, so everything goes to Concord before it goes out over the airwaves. So I think there's like a 5-second delay. But we all usually kind of show up at the racetrack together. You know, my best friend travels on the road with me too. Her name's Taylor, and she works in fan engagement. So she technically has to be there before me. And, you know, our race director will ride in my rental car. So we all kind of just go together. So the nice thing is the beginning of my day is usually pretty lax because they do set up the night before at most of the racetracks. So really until about 1 o'clock, I kind of just get to socialize, which is probably my favorite hour of the day. Yeah. And then we start communicating with studio. So studio will have, you know, interview requests if we have a pre-race show that's being shot in Charlotte. If they have graphics that they need to build for stuff, they'll start putting in requests. So they could text me and be like, hey, we'd like to hear from Brandon Shepard on Randall Edwards being his crew chief 6 races in now. How's that been going? Great. So then I can go shoot those interviews, tape them, send them back to Charlotte, give them editing time. So that's kind of what the next couple hours of my day consists of, is coordinating with studio, deciding how I want to open the show. Also, I have about a 7 to 8 minute pre-race show that's just me solo, but coordinating packages and tosses and highlights and interviews with studio so we time everything correctly. And then whatever our hot laps time is, we'll do a rehearsal about an hour beforehand to make sure my comms work, track comms work, everything works, and then studio gets a good time estimate of how long I'm going to be talking so they can time stuff. And then, yeah, we go live at, you know, about 10 minutes before hot laps hits the racetrack. And after that, it's, you know, pretty full-fledged. The nice thing is I don't really ever have to deviate from a regular schedule. Like I said, it's like muscle memory at this point with me, having worked with them 4 years. You know, you do your hot laps, you do your qualifying, you go into opening ceremonies, and it's heat races, talk to those people from the heat races, redraw, last chance showdown, top 3 after the feature, and we load up and we're on the road to the next racetrack because we got a couple of those weeks that we race, you know, 6 times in 8 days or something like that. So it's to me the perfect balance. It's not insane. I'm not slammed from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. You know, I can get up and go get breakfast if I want. But there are days that we're there till 3 a.m. when it happens. But like, I've just really grown to like the dirt schedule and just what my days consist of, because it's a good day. Like it's I couldn't ask for a easier but also fulfilling schedule of how things are mapped out. But again, we've all been together. Our Dirt Vision team on the late model schedule has now been together 2 to 3 years. So again, we're like a well-oiled machine. Like, yeah, we all work together super well, which I'm really thankful for.
That's key. That is so key, especially when you travel with the same people all the time. Oh my
Yes,
God.
like
Yeah.
we're the only ones that haven't really like deviated. Like they had to get a lot of new staff for the sprint cars. They had to get a lot of new staff for Super Dirt Car. Like they had to get a lot of new staff for the Extreme Midgets. Summer Nationals has all new producers, talent, everything. So like me, my producer, and my cameraman, so the three core people that travel every weekend, we've all now worked together 2 to 3 years. And so they know where to find me 9 times out of 10. They know I'll have my stuff done. They're not having to track me down. I know when it's time to rehearse. My camera guy has batteries for me in his pocket. Like
That's
we
nice.
just,
Like that.
yeah, we've just got it figured out.
great.
I'm super, super thankful for them.
I love that. Okay, so speaking of, so people are always wondering, like you're wearing a headset, you're wearing the earpiece, like what are people saying on the end of the? Wow, I'm struggling on the other end of that. You know what? The conversations back and forth. Do they say like, "Hey, Hannah, this happened. Go," like you, like kind of like what you're saying, but more so in the midst of like a heat race or something.
Yeah, so I'll give you the 2 examples because they're the same but different. When you see me on Dirt Vision, I've got 2 earbuds in, going to 2 different things. One of them is goes to a scanner, which I scan an over-the-air program frequency. So no different than what anyone listens to on a driver radio, but we're pushing out our broadcast, which is our house PA. So that way I can hear Ruben up in the booth talking. I know when he comes down to me. I know what he's talking to, so I can hear program, because obviously it gets really loud when cars are on the track, and I can't hear it over the PA system. So that's one of my ears. And then my other ear is a 2-way radio channel for talkback. So I can talk to... you can call it like an associate producer. They also run our TV boards up in the tower. So she's kind of my tower liaison of when stuff's happening with race control, something's going on. She tells Ruben and me and then preps Cade, who's my producer, who actually produces from a truck, usually outside of the racetrack. But I can also talk to Cade and my cameraman. So if my cameraman is over on the backstretch shooting flybys and I'm like, Cody, I want to go shoot an interview now, I can just tell Cody, hey, meet me. Yeah, so that's actually very calm, just having those 2. When I work IMSA, I have the headset. I have production in one ear. I have my Charlotte producer in another ear. And then I also, like NASCAR, scan radios. So I'll actually put a 3rd earbud underneath my headset here and scan radios for driver communications while listening to program and coordinating stuff with my producer in Charlotte. So my producer in Charlotte for IMSA is a little bit more guiding because things are so much quicker, so much tighter, condensed on actual TV, where streaming, you kind of get to make your own show. It's way more free-flowing, way more lax. So my producer will be in my ear. I'll be scanning radios, doing whatever, and he'll be like, Hannah, we're coming to you in 10 seconds for this. And I'm like, oh, okay, sounds good. They'll throw down to me. He'll say, go. I'll do my report. And like, as I'm talking, they'll decide they want to go to commercial break. So I'll be talking and he'll be in my ear going, throw to commercial break, throw to commercial break. And I'll be like, more coming down here at Road America with the IMSA sports car, we'll see you back here after the break, throw to break. So like, I always say ADHD can be someone's best friend and their worst enemy. And my ADHD in these environments absolutely thrives because I just can bounce like I need to bounce. I have 52 things on my to-do list on my fridge that are all mostly halfway done, but like works great in the working environment that I work in.
Okay, so this has me thinking of like an athlete. Are there ways for you to better yourself? I mean, like you said, you ask people for ways of improvement, but like, is it just your ADHD? Do you feed into that? I mean, how do you keep up with that? It's just mind-blowing.
Yeah, I think, leaning on people that you aspire to report after, because the difference in like on-air broadcasting is there's no benchmark, right? Like it's not like, oh, so-and-so is the best quarterback ever because here's their statistics, right? You have to find your own niche and you have to have your own presence, your own brand, your own pizzazz about you, while also not veering too far off the path because they kind of still want you in a lane. Yep. So it's a really fine and really weird line to walk sometimes. And so I think leaning on the people that are above you that you look up to for guidance and criticism, while also maybe not adopting their things because it's their things. And you're not trying to be them because they're not going to hire two of them. So it's a weird way to walk. But yeah, I would say, you know, one of the things that I had to work on for a long time was crutch words. Like when I would get in a moment where I couldn't get my brain to work fast enough, you go to crutch sayings.
Yeah.
I would find myself in situations after an interview, I didn't know what to say, so I didn't know how to get it back up top. Mm-hmm. And my biggest pet peeve with reporters, especially people that work house, is they go, let's send it back up top. Let's go back up to the booth. I don't know why. I cannot stand that. I've been told not to do that. You know, so it was like, okay, how do I wrap this in a good way? So it's been little things like that along the way of, you know, there are people that pride themselves on their statistics. Like Connor Wade, our sprint car reporter, is phenomenal at that stuff. He walks into interviews with people and he's able to be like, you know, Donnie Schatz has won at this racetrack 27 times, has the all-time win record here in the state of North Dakota, and can go into an interview that way. That's not me. Yeah. My personality comes through with the relationships that I've built with people, to where my interviews are a little bit more like, hey buddy, how are you? Let's talk about this. Let's do this. And we both work, but we work in different ways. So that's the weird thing about this industry is there are ways to get better, but there's also no guideline and there's no benchmarks. So
you're following in a sense, but you're also paving your own way.
100%. Yeah. Like you need to be liked for who you are and what you bring to the table, but you can't veer too far off the road because you still got to fit in the box. Yeah. It's a very finicky and very frustrating thing sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of, dude, way to just like walk right into my next question. Good job. Okay. So struggles, like frustration, struggles, there have to be something that, you know, people don't know about or really ever get to see. What you got?
The backside politics of it all, right? Again, there's a lot of who knows who to get people places where you're looking at a job that you like put your name in the hat for and you're like, I don't see the logic in that. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that are like, well, that makes more sense than you make sense. But like, there's a lot of politics, again, of who you know. And that can be really frustrating when you feel like you would have best served that job, that gig, whatever it is. I think just like any job that's people facing, as a female, Lynn St. James, I did an interview with Lynn St. James in a documentary that we had done a couple years ago, and she said it perfectly, and she was referring to it as women in racing as far as drivers. She said women in racing are under a magnifying glass. Anything they do wrong, anything that's wrong with them is because they're a woman. Mm-hmm. But if they have success, it's also because they're a woman. They're like, oh, well, you guys are making a big deal out of it because she's a girl. So no matter what, you're under a magnifying glass. And that goes in broadcasting too, to where no one has ever, and this is like a very finicky subject, no one has ever, I don't think, looked at any of my male counterparts and been like, do you have a gym membership? You're thinking about dyeing your hair? Maybe you shouldn't. We hired a blonde. So you need to make sure you maintain your blonde. Or to be quite frank, I have been told that I don't fit the look they are going for in a female reporter. And I'm like, I'm probably the most motorsports qualified freaking reporter that you're going to find for this position. But I, at the time, was not 5'7" and 130 pounds. Mm-hmm. And that is a really, really hard pill to swallow. And that is a really slippery slope.
Yeah.
And I think that's why you see women get burnout so freaking fast in this industry. You look at football analysts, the freaking men in the booth in football, baseball, have been there for 45 years. It's a bunch of old men. Mm-hmm. You look at the turnover in sideline reporters for football, with the exception of a handful of like elite women, it's 3 to 5 years. They never really last longer than that. And I truly think it is because of the unspoken bar that people are held to in their looks. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's one of those things, if you're not getting your lips done, your Botox, and you got to maintain your hair, and you got to have these clothes on air, and now it's this, and it's like, oh my gosh, like, I signed up to talk about racing, not being a beauty pageant.
Yeah.
You know, so that's probably like the hardest thing that I had to really come to terms with was I was like, I don't like this. Like I'm not being hired by how I look. So I had to have a couple talks with myself. I've had many talks with myself where I'm like, it's okay. I don't want to work for that person anyways. I don't want to work for that person because even if I would have got the job in a secondary scenario, would that have been good for my mental health? And again, I think that's how I ended up in the dirt racing industry is because I had to take a step back and be like, what is good for my mental health in the long run? And I think I kind of found a good little area. You know what I mean?
And 1,000%. I actually not too long ago released an episode because we could totally do another episode on this because I did a mini rant on the fact that I'm receiving the Outstanding Woman in Racing Award in the Northeast.
Awesome.
Yes, thank you.
Girl.
And I'm like, I'm all for it, but at the same time, like, why does it have to be a woman? And I hate to do that deep freaking dive conversation, but at the same time it's like we're still on little pedestals, and it's like I put myself out there with everything that I do, so it's like, well, you're doing it to yourself. You're a pit reporter. You're putting yourself out there, so you gotta look the part. You know, it freaking sucks. But a guy, my husband and I were just talking about that the other night. He's like, dude, I can just get out of the shower and this is what you get. And I'm like, okay.
Can't relate. Yeah.
I mean, like, I'm happy to rock nothing, right? More than happy. Would love to. But it's still frowned upon. And it's hard. And I mean, that kind of goes with one of my questions too, is like being in the spotlight so much that like the negative feedback that you get. Like what do I say? I say it's like, how many keyboard warriors do you get that sit in their mom's basement and want to tear you the hell apart, right?
Yeah, and the funny thing is it ebbs and flows. I'll go like a couple races and like crickets, which is great. Honestly, I'd prefer the crickets. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, Alan that's sitting at home watching on his couch, drinking Busch Light. Like, I was at DeCoin last weekend or 2 weekends ago, training a new pit reporter for the Extreme Outlaw Midget Series. And so we co-announced the first night just to get a night under our belts, and then he did the second night, and I was just kind of there to help. And, you know, I have a tendency to get a little excitable, and I can talk a little fast. Yeah. And that's very apparent when our new pit reporter is from Virginia. And like country Virginia. So he's just got this real slow accent like this. And then I come in and I'm like, da 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 da. So this guy just took every chance he had to tweet at me every time they posted something. He was like, you need to slow down. You're bad at your job. You sound like an auctioneer, da 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 da. Mm-hmm. And I'm at the point now where, again, it depends on your boss and depends on the reins that you're put on. But, you know, I'll clap back. I'll be like, actually, we're selling cattle in the next segment, so make sure you tune in. You know, and there's the people that try to shove themselves in your personal business, and they try to shove themselves in your mental health and the way you look. Like, I had an account made about me, 3 years ago, where all they would do was take the pictures that I would post and then make them look 100 pounds heavier and then repost them and then like just shame the heck out of me. And I was like, who knows if I even knew who the person was, but like, do you really not have anything better to do with your time? And so fortunately, but also unfortunately, I was learned to have pretty thick skin with that stuff, especially because I grew up as a girl in racing myself. So since 12 years old, I was under speculation. I was under a magnifying glass. I was being watched, criticized, picked apart. So I guess I just don't really know any better, and it's kind of translated into this. But man, there are times where you're like, really?
Yeah.
Like, really, guys?
Yeah. And I feel like you understand it, especially like you said, your entire background. And I preach it all the time it's so easy, you know, to take that one negative comment out of 100 good comments.
Yes. You focus on them.
Yeah. And then at the same time, you have to remind yourself, do they know how to do what you do? No. Yeah. No. So like, okay, whoever that was, Alan, you come here, you do my job. You come do my job.
handily hop over a microphone one of these
Yes.
days.
Yes.
Like, please, let me know what race you want to come pit report at, and we'll see how it goes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh my God. So, okay. And that too is like, you're doing what you love.
Yeah.
Screw off. You know, it's not like you're doing this just to be the pretty face, but you're actually putting in the work. You enjoy this. You love it. And that kind of what I want to lean into is like, what is it that really drives you, you know, into wanting to do this stuff? I kind of have a wild guess, but we'll let you say.
Yeah, well, and I mean, I think my best validation of that is I have been approached by different TV and media outlets asking me if I want to expand my horizons into stick and ball sports. Do I want to come be a sideline reporter for baseball? Do I want to come report on football, basketball? And I straight up tell them, I am a motorsports girl that happened to end up in TV.
Yeah.
I'm not a TV girl that'll take what I can get.
Yeah.
I have no interest in learning football, basketball, baseball, just to get on TV. That's not my end goal. My end goal is not to be the TV girl. My end goal is the fact that I have friendships that are going to be lifelong friends, that are going to raise my kids with me, be there for the ups and downs, and I just happen to get a paycheck all while I'm literally talking to them. Like, my job is to have conversations with my friends and get to tell their stories. And I think that is, you know, I get to connect these people to other people. And I think that's such a cool concept, and I'm so blessed to be able to have that. Like, I have to check myself sometimes where, you know, you and I were talking off camera before the show of like exhaustion and burnout. And, you know, usually around August, September, I've done 65, 70 races by that point. And I am like over it. But all it takes, I'm usually over it in the Charlotte Douglas airport. And then I get on track property and I'm like, okay, I'm good again. And then, like, the overnight drive hits that night, and I'm like, this sucks. I hate this. Why do I do this to myself? And then I get to the racetrack the next day, and I'm good. And then, like, it's just a cycle. But, I mean, yeah, like, that's what kind of keeps me going and keeps me doing it. Is it's like, I'm doing a job that other people would kill to do. I am living some people's dreams, and all by accident, which I think humbles me and makes me a little bit more grateful for it. Don't get me wrong, I've worked my absolute freaking tail off to get here and stay here. But yeah, like I'm literally traveling the country with my closest friends doing life. You know what I mean? And this is stuff that I'm excited to pull out a picture box one day, 25 years down the road from now, and be like, look at all this cool stuff I got to do.
Yes. I probably have to pinch myself like once a week. Okay. Yeah. Because there's plenty of times when I'm talking to like my brother or my mom or like my husband, and I'm just like, oh my God, I will remember to this day when, I'm sure you can attest to it, when you're young and you're like, I don't know, let's just go with like, I'm 17 or 18. I want to be the first one at the track. I want to be the last one at the track when they shut the lights off. Like, I want to sleep here. And my mom told me, she was like, one day you're not going to want to go to the races. I was like, you're full of crap. Like, there's just no way. And here I am at 31, and I'm just kind of like, I could take it right now. I'm like, I don't know.
We have a race right up the road this weekend. It's a late model race, and obviously the Outlaws are not racing. And I have a bunch of friends that are going, and they're like, hey, we're going to go Friday, we're going to go Saturday. Do you want to come? And I'm like, it's also supposed to be 76 on Saturday, and we've got some really fun breweries around here that have patio seating, and my legs are super white. So I think maturing is also finding the balance. You don't have to be up to your nose in your passion to validate it as a passion and a career. You still need to find that balance.
Dude, amen. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I'm like, am I wrong for not wanting to go? But then it's like, this is literally what we do.
It's our jobs.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm like, I tell my husband all the time, like, okay, if we have like a Saturday off, we're not going to the races. We're going somewhere to do something. Like,
and I'm a terrible race fan. I went to Cherokee 2 weeks ago for a race just because, again, I had friends that were there and racing, and I was like, this will be fun. I'm just going to hang out, and I'm not going to have to work, and I'm going to like, but then I forget that they all still have to work. Like, they're all still doing things, so I was like, what am I? This is weird. What am I supposed to do? Like, I felt so out of place and so lost. And I can tell you, unless I have a job, that'll probably be one of the last times. Like, I'll be like, dude, I'll put tear-offs on helmets. I don't really care. Like, someone give me something to do, because I just can't. I'm in that headspace now. When I go to the racetrack, I work. And, you know, my work is talking to people. But, like, yeah, I'm a terrible race fan. I'm just not very good at. I mean, I guess I wasn't drinking beer, so that's probably half my problem. If I'd maybe like started drinking beer, I probably would have been a little bit more content. But
you got to tailgate. I think I literally tailgated once ever.
Yeah, I feel like I want to go to World, like go to Eldora and tailgate. If I'm gonna tailgate anything, like I've heard that's a good time.
Count me in.
Yeah, same. So here you go. We're gonna take this podcast live at Eldora for a tailgate. You heard it here.
Yes. You will see us there. And if we're not, come find us.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, so let's circle into are there any tactics that you have or action steps? Like you're saying, like your mental self, your physical self, spiritual, whatever that might be. Like, how do you take care of yourself? Do you, Hannah? I hope you do.
Yeah, again, ebb and flow, right? There are moments where I gotta check myself. So I'm thankful, extremely thankful, that the schedule that has kind of been built out for me and that I've really prided myself on building on is basically kind of like a reverse work week for a lot of people. So 9 times out of 10, I'm traveling out on Thursday morning, if not Wednesday night. I'm home on Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening. So that most of the time leaves me Monday, Tuesday, and maybe a Wednesday. So I do get a weekend.
That's nice. Okay.
Weekend. Which, of course, with adult life now comes, you know, you got to get your groceries. You got to make sure you're doing laundry. You got to go to the gym.
Wait, how do you take care of your dog?
So I bought a camper.
So she has
quite a few with me. So like she's coming to Talladega and Thunder Hill with me in Tennessee in a couple weeks. She'll come to basically anything within a 6.5 hour, 7 hour radius of me. She's gonna come. Okay. But I have built a really good network of like friends that either don't travel with me. We've got great dog boarding places here. You know, I've been off technically 2.5 weeks, so like that's nice. She kicks it with me. She goes everywhere with me too. When I say run these errands during the weekday, she goes to the chiropractor with me. She goes to the gym with me. She goes to.
Where's the gym?
Oh yeah. I go to a CrossFit gym and she'll just kick it. I just tie her to one of the rigs and she just hangs out. I actually have a really funny TikTok about her trying to actually work out with me. That was a complete disaster. You know, and no shame in the game. I started going to therapy last year because I was like, I need someone to just like, that's not involved in everything that I'm doing, be my guidance. Yep. And, you know, your late 20s are a weird place because you're told that you should be getting ready to hit the peak of your career, but you're also told that you should be a wife and a mom by now. It's a really weird place to navigate in your life. So, yeah, it's about balance. You know, I think there are times where I get burnout and I have to go, okay, you don't need to go to the gym today. It's okay. Take a day. Open the windows in your house. It's a spring day and hang out. Take the dog on a walk. I mean, you're good. And you just need to be able to listen to your body. And I think that's the biggest thing. Even on the road days, we're gone 2-3 weeks sometimes. And, you know, we like to go out. We like to do things and see the city. And sometimes I'm like, hey, I'm going to DoorDash a pub sub and I think I'm going to sit in the room half the day and then maybe I'll catch up with you guys. And that's okay. And you have to be okay with that stuff.
Yeah. And dude, good for you for therapy. Because I started therapy. I've done therapy plenty of times, but like more so recently, I was like, I just need someone, like you said, a safe place to just dump everything. And it's funny because like, when I first explained to her what we do, she's like, so how do you fit into your husband's life? And I'm like, that's a really good question. Yeah. I'm just here. He luckily married someone that gets racing. And so I cannot wait until we're in the thick of it in like July and August. And my therapist be like, I get it now. You know, I just cannot wait. Because right now, I don't think she understands it.
I recently switched therapist, just like subject to circumstance. And so I've been going to this one for a little while. And she, by the grace of God, has a background in radio broadcasting.
Oh, wow.
So she like actually kind of gets some of the dynamics that come with my job. Now the racing aspect is a whole new ball game. And the grit and the rigor that is dirt racing and the schedule. But yeah, dude, it's been so nice. I mean, I will stand by therapy. I don't care what anyone says, man, woman, teenager, adult, like, even if it's once a month, man, get into someone and like, it's so good to have an unbiased outlet. As long as we love, as much as we love to like trauma load our significant others or our parents, they're always going to be a bias. So yeah, it's so nice to have that.
It's funny because I think I was talking to someone about this not too long ago, and I'm like, we have like, I don't know, life coaches, business coaches. Like, there have to be therapists out there that get racing, right? There has to be.
I would think so.
Should we create this? Can we have like a main hub form? But then, I don't know, because obviously it's like patient confidentiality. But to know that there's therapists out there that understand racing, maybe I'm just going to go back to school. I'll be a therapist.
Yeah, I really think that like, race teams, especially NASCAR, like 36 weekends in a row, race teams supply nutritionists and trainers and that kind of stuff to their teams. I wholeheartedly believe that like they should have a therapist on retainer that caters primarily to whether it's a manufacturer, it's like all the Toyota people, the Chevy people, because that lifestyle takes a toll on your mental health, your family's mental health, marriages, children dynamics. Like, it's tough. And I really, really think that a lot of people could benefit from that.
Yes. I think we're onto something.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Again, after our tailgate at Eldora, we're launching our therapy business.
Therapy. What else are we going to come up with? Oh my God. Okay. So we could, dude, you're coming back on because we could talk about so much. Yeah. So let's close out with a tip. Let's say we have some listeners who want to be where you are. And obviously, listeners, if you've been listening, you kind of have an idea of what she's going to tell you right now. But they want to be where you are. They want to be doing what you're doing. What would be the biggest tip you would offer them?
Do it all. Make yourself a Swiss Army knife. It's how can you create more value in yourself than the next person? And that's kind of what opened doors for me, is when I was getting hired, I could go cut, shoot, edit, be in front of the camera, do it all. And, now I'm thankful that I'm in a position that most of the time I'm just on camera, but I'm headed to Louisiana next week taking a camera, and I'm cutting and shooting and orchestrating a full 2 days of a sit down, behind the wheel with a driver piece. And someone that just talks on a camera may not have landed my job because they just talk in front of a camera. So broadcasting is a Swiss Army knife job. I always say, learn anything and everything you can, and start at your local racetracks, man. There are so many local racetracks that simply need help, and it might suck. And I'm going to tell you right now, I personally don't think that in today's day and age, people can afford to be working for free necessarily. But I think that there is trade of goods that can happen. Whether you are volunteering to pit report the local bomber class just to get the reps, and in return they buy you a soda and a drink and you get a pit pass free to the next race that you want to go to.
Yeah.
Internships are just really hard right now, just with the state of everything that's going on in the world. But, local racetracks need help. They need young blood. They need people that are willing to work hard and take the helm. And I think there's a lot of people that maybe think that they want to be on air also until they get put in the position, and then they're like, no, I actually want to be a camera person. And that's what helps really, really well on learning all of those different things, because they are very interchangeable. And maybe you go shadow someone and help learn how to punch buttons in the truck. So start at your local short track, man. Reach out to them, call them, get in touch with someone, the PR person, and be like, I will come out every weekend for your big races, and if you give me the Instagram account, I'll go interview your top 5 in points in each thing and post it on their Instagram. Guess what? You get interviewing skills, you build relationships with the drivers, and the racetrack gets social media presence, reach, advertising, win-win. No one's going to say no to that. So that's what I always say. Start at your local racetrack, get creative, find jobs for yourself, create the jobs for yourself. And then, having a strong reel. That'll help you build a strong reel, and that's your resume in broadcasting. You don't send a pen and paper resume. You send 6 minutes of your best work and hope someone likes you.
That's so true. Oh my God. It's so funny you said that, because it totally just popped in my head. I think it was like circa 2011. I just wanted to get into the races for free, so I put on a sash and I was a trophy girl.
I love it. I think that's
I
those roles are so good. Like, they are people-facing roles that sometimes have interview and or like presentation style stuff. Like, I honestly almost went and participated in the Knoxville Nationals Queen program or whatever it is, because I was like, that's perfect. I'd get to go to Knoxville Nationals. I'd create relationships with teams, drivers, the racetrack, get to go to the biggest sprint car race in the country. Like,
you make connections.
yeah.
And you make connections. That's so key.
Yes.
So
all about connections.
Yes, dude. I'll end my tip too, because when I went to school for public relations, and I was doing all the odd and ends jobs while going to school at night, of course, because had to work during the day. Wanted to go to the races on the weekends, and I actually was with World Racing Group. That was the first gig I got right out of college, and it's the people. I loved it. I loved traveling. That's not how I met my husband, but how we really kicked off.
Yeah.
I hated writing. That's how I learned it. I was like...
See, and you think people don't, and I love writing. Like, I would love to do the PR and pressers and that kind of stuff, but do not make me do social media. Like, I freaking hate social media so much, and they're 2 in 1 now, right? You got to run social and you got to run writing. So people have got to get that experience before you try and get a job in it, is what I always tell people.
Amen.
Like,
dude, you have to
figure it out.
You have to be a jack of many trades. You have to try it all and be like, this is what I can bring to you. So spot on. So Hannah, oh my God, this was amazing. Thank you so much for taking time to be on here. Guys, if you enjoyed this, which I know you did, please like it, share it, tag Hannah and I. And speaking of Hannah, how can people find you? I know, obviously we're not a huge social media fan, but you're on social media. How can they find you?
Yeah, if you like dog pictures and Australian Shepherds, that's basically all I put on my Instagram anymore, with the occasional late model or sports car post. But everything that I'm on social media is all just Hannah Newhouse. So easy to find, very uniform.
Simple.
And yeah, today's adventure on my Instagram is me at the DMV. So like I said, you really never know what you're going to get on social media.
And I love it. I love the transparency. Well, thank you. Amazing. Hannah, thank you again. To our amazing listeners, we appreciate you. We look forward to seeing you all at the races. When you see Hannah at the races, give her a shout out. Tell her you love the podcast episode. And hopefully, I think we're going to have to plan Eldora. So,
yeah. I mean, worst case, I'm pretty sure I'm coming to Super Dirt Week. So we could do some serious planning then.
Oh, yeah, dude. We got plenty of time to plan for that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, babe. See you guys.